are some of the deciding factors? Speak on. I know JD's execution. What are some deciding factors you have in a battle?
Yeah, man, it's always and I try to make sure I'm very knowledgeable in all the different styles because, of course, you know, you're gonna have people that are gonna favor the different elements of breaking. You know, you have some people that like footwork more, some people that like power more, some people that like dynamics more, some people who are more stylish, some people who are a little bit more athletic. You know, people a little bit more eccentric and artistic, and you know, the guys, you know, we call them like, you know, not the freaks, but you know, the obscure breakers that are like they love flexibility and they love being obscure.
Right.
So with all those different branch offs, it's great to see because it's all the different ways you can break. And I feel like that's a great thing because it just doesn't limit people to being like, oh, you either got to dance like Rocksteady and be a true school B-boy, or you got to dance like a West Coast B-boy and do nothing but power and spin and try to fly. You know, you have so much texture now within the dance. It's just in those competitions, like you said earlier, and I said this to a lot of guys that ask me advice on how to improve or what to improve on. And I tell them a lot, like you can't neglect any of the variables that you're in that you're dancing under in the environment. You know, you got cameras, you got audience, you got judges, and you got the vibe. You can't neglect either one of those because all of them are present. So you can't go to a battle like BC1 and dance like you're in a cypher at Cypher Addicts. The energy and the vibe is not going to match. You're not going to dance well. You can't act like it's a show when you're in a cypher battle. You know, you can't put on a performance. You can't be in performance mode when it's a concentrated, intimate cypher battle. You know, that's something
different elements.
So it's knowing how to perform in a certain environment that you're placed in.
It's a different language. Each one of them is a different language, so you got to speak differently. You know what I mean?
And with that comes, like I said, execution at the end of the day is always who's better in the moment, because you can't judge somebody on what you've known them to be able to do, because then you're placing unfair weight on the person that you're like, well, I've seen you do this last week and I know what you're capable of. Just like you can't judge somebody on their potential. It's like, well, I know you have the potential.
Sometimes, you know, you guys know that sometimes has happened before. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Oh, bro, yeah.
Absolutely.
And then like other guys that came from like a whole different country did it way better, but didn't get picked, you know?
Exactly.
Or bro, judges will tell you like, oh, you did this move into a different move instead of that other move. I was like, so you thought that I messed up because I chose to do this, like, okay, for me was a double aerial to the freeze, you know? And this is why I had to stop doing. There's many reasons why I stopped, but when everyone looks at you as one move, it starts to fucking fuck shit up. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's a very interesting point, dude.
You know, so like, dude, I've lost a tiebreaker because I went double aerial flag freeze and I stuck it and I stared at the guy and I was like, oh man, I got this, right? And
Right.
It was my wrong person. I had a great time. And then two of the judges were like, oh, but you didn't do double, and I'm like, bro. So I chose to do double to the freeze, and I executed it beautifully. Like it was good. You know? Yeah, and because I didn't do it that other way, you know, I lost, and it's just like, dude.
Yeah,
like, that's weird. You know what I mean? Like, how are you gonna judge me on something that you wanted me to do? You know?
Yeah. It's not reality in the moment, and that's why I say execution always is the determining factor, because that's the thing that's gonna you're gonna win by inches or margins, but it's all based on who's better in the moment, in that split second, right then, right there, who is executing better, who's hitting their freezes a little bit longer, who's hitting the syncopation of the music a little bit more frequent. It's all in that moment, and that just means that person is better at executing under pressure in that moment. It doesn't mean that overall, oh, the person that lost was whack, and you know, or this or that and the third. It just really just showing, like, in that moment of that day, this person just was better at performing their skill.
Yeah, execution.
And that's really, and you know, and it doesn't matter what style you're doing, because a good judge would be knowledgeable of all the different styles. So it's like, okay, if you want to go out there and be eccentric and have a flexibility style and, you know, be like a Benji or like a Lilu or anybody like that, and you got somebody like Chico or somebody like
Little G,
Calistrito or Little G, and they're dancing their way. It's just all about who's executing, who's showing that they have a mastery over their style, who can control their moves. It's like, so
but if you think about it, Twixx, that's judging on round to round, right?
Exactly.
So and then what makes it complicated too, or not complicated, but what's like
No, it is pretty complicated.
yeah, what makes it complicated too now is like you have judging like that where a judge is going to sit there and he's going to make the choices on the overall and who won this round, boom boom. But then on the Olympics, you know, it's broken down to different categories, so each judge is judging on different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, to me, what's fascinating is like which one is a more accurate, you know,
right,
decision, because it's like, and this is just judging round to round. What if like before, how battles were, it was like, dude, they battled for like, you know, 20 minutes and you didn't know who won until like the very end. Someone killed it so bad and then the other guy was like, it's over, you got me, you know what I mean? And that's, battles could be won too. So it's like it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's complicated, bro.
Well, the thing is with the round for round, for me, I don't just look at like the overall. The funny thing is when I'm judging, I'm looking at all those little those details and like how they use the hour system, where it's like, okay, dynamics, okay, top rocks, okay, foundation. I'm analyzing all that.
You're doing all it yourself.
I'm doing, so it's just funny to give it a actual visual now, because when I'm judging in that round for round basis, it's like who's hitting all the points on the checklist for the overall picture. It's like, okay, who's hitting all
everyone could have more points, like they could add more stuff.
And now it's just cool to see with technology, we can see the numbers if they were numbers, versus like, okay, this person hit this more frequent and this person hit this more frequent in a ratio. If we're talking about numbers, it's like, okay, you can see the 8 out of 10 or you can see the 6 out of 3. So that's the way I've been judging. So it's like funny to see it now visually, and everybody has all these different systems, but a good judge would be already doing that in his head. Like as he's tabulating the round, it's like, okay, but this guy didn't dance on that part. You know, he went out and he did this and he executed, but this guy executed more things on the checklist that are considered overall a good, balanced, complete round.
Yeah,
true. But what about like, let's say this is where I think maybe that system of always judging someone on how good their top rock was that round or how good their power was that round. Like, you know, it's a language. So what if the guy comes out and does like a power move combo and then he actually does some footwork and he scores these many points, and then this guy over here is like, oh dude, you just entered my world, now I'm gonna end you, and he does the most amazing power move combo and the crowd's going nuts, you know, but then he didn't get those points of like these other things, so he could possibly lose that round, you know what I mean?
Possibly. Again, so depending on who looks the most complete.
Yeah, so then I guess like going into that as a competitor, you have to understand what you're required of too, you know what I mean? Like if you go out there, like, look, kill his round, but make sure you're not neglecting these other
exactly. And that's all the stuff that we weren't told when we were battling, because a lot of our OGs could not articulate that. They couldn't really get down to specifics because they didn't know how to say it.
But I don't think it was a sport yet either, you know?
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
So they were just it was really about burning the other guy. Like, dude, I used to go to jams in the beginning of my breaking. My mentality wasn't to win. I didn't care who won the event. I don't think, in my mind, I didn't know that anybody cared who actually won, because we were all there.
We just went to go dance.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go smoke some guys in the cypher.
Yeah, but even in the competition, for me, I remember entering is like all I wanted to do was fucking make sure that I fucking do hella good and I smoke that person in the fucking first round, and like I'm smoke that person, and I was taking names like
because it's easier after you burn the first person, then you're like, all right, I'm ready.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Everybody.
And it was a different, you know, idea. But now that it's into the sport world, you know, everything has to make sense.
Right. And the funny thing is, on the flip side, Ben, I came from being an athlete. So my
used to points.
My analytics for sports and stats have always stayed with me, because before I was a B-boy, I literally was a student athlete. I played every fucking sport. Martial arts since I was 5. Next sport after that was gymnastics for 8 years. Football, wrestling, basketball, track. Like, I played every sport. So I think for me, that mentality of like maintaining of like, okay, well, was there this, and like the analytics of sports never left my brain, because I remember even in the 90s, I used to get flack for that, because being an athlete trying to cross over into being a B-boy in the 90s was hard as fuck to do. We used to get a lot of criticism for it, especially being in the gymnast realm. You were like, oh, you're a gymnast, you're coming over here trying to break.
Oh yeah.
You know, so And I even say that a lot about like our generation. Our generation, it was really, if you made your name in our era, you really put in some work.
Yeah, you're a
Because
legend. Like we all
our
knew each
era
other,
was the most critical. Our
You
era
knew
was
who
the
was
most critical.